or talking about, I think that's going to be the meatier part of it. Maybe not that section will be meatier, but it'll open up the meat doors.
Open up the meat locker.
Hi, and welcome to the Inner Moxie Podcast. Podcast about not one, but two neurodivergent adults trying to live their lives on the nueroD list and not hate themselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie.
And I'm Zanni.
And this week, we are continuing our talk about neurodiversity in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, where's your Moxie meter? What status have you?
Oh. All right. So, number this week, I am going with, really out of however many you want, I'm going with the 1. I'm down there this week. Okay. It's been a week. Just with, and I don't even know if it's been a week, but like I got an inspection on my house coming up, which as a renter is always kind of terrifying. Mm-hmm. Especially, you know, I got the family and everything, and not that like single people, it's okay for you to be out on the street. But I guess I worry more about it because I have a family and I have less options. And so and just like, it's so invasive and people coming into your house and for the strict purpose of judging you. And it's just, it yearly gives me, a very deep anxiety that is just, it just weighs on me. And they've given us 1 week's notice. So I have this Monday.
Did you say yearly this gives you anxiety?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do it once a year.
Okay.
Except for they took 3 years off during the pandemic.
Okay.
And then when they came back after the pandemic, also again with 1 week notice, that inspection did not go well because the pandemic was rough on a house full of people, especially young people with neurodiversity issues. Mm-hmm. And so things got in not the great shape. So I got that. A good friend of mine, and I'm very happy for her. But she just moved to Portland, Oregon. And so I don't have my Game Boy buddy anymore. Mm-hmm. Which that just kind of, you know, it's especially kind of as you get older. I don't know. Different people are different ways, but sometimes you find those people that to some degree understand what you're going through at the moment or understand something you've gone through. Which is always, like I've said, like one of the great values of support groups. But this just happened to be a friend I made. And so, them moving is sad. That's like losing a friend. Not like losing a friend. We're still friends, but like losing a support person. Now I'm just going to have to keep all my Tenacious D jokes to myself.
Please.
That was really well placed.
Thanks. It was honest. I'm not a huge fan.
And this like not hugely shocking, but my eldest daughter, who is 20, she's moving out. And she told us, like, and we knew she was moving out because she had moved back in, and this was only supposed to be like a temporary stop. But like we got the news yesterday and she's moving out tomorrow. And so, and of course I always worry for her. I'll be all right. But I also like, I don't know. She has a very kind of, she has an attitude and a kind of viewpoint on the world that I very much remember from being around her age, that I very much related to. and then B, that I still kind of relate to in a lot of ways. And so it was nice having her around the house. And, she's my daughter. I love her.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like I have, my therapist just recently taught me this term. You'll probably know it, but the window of tolerance, it's like kind of the area where you're not, I forget the terms, but when you're not
this term,
when you're not hyper aroused or hypo aroused. So where you're not like freaking out or where you're not like just depressed, not moving. I don't know. It just feels very small for me right now. So I have like this very limited area of operation, and I'm managing to operate, but I am bouncing in and out of that a bunch, but try to take advantage of the time that I'm in it. So that's me. How's yours doing? Are you gonna average this out?
No.
Oh.
I do want to say, I didn't want to interrupt because that would have been rude. But you said that your friend is moving to Portland. And it feels like a loss. And I have come to terms with this outwardly lately. Like, I don't experience things in that way at all. Like, if my brother lives in Japan.
Yeah.
My parents live in Northern California, and my aunt, and then my parents are moving across the United States soon, within the next few months.
From Northern California.
From Northern California to North Carolina.
Okay. They just like things labeled NC.
Yes, they do. And my best friend from like high school on, she lives up north. I don't miss people in that sense. To me, it feels the same to hang out with them in person or talk to them on the phone or text with them or not keep up with communication at all, really. Like, and then see it when I see it. Like, I don't feel like a sense of loss when stuff like that happens.
Right.
Like a change, maybe it's about the change. Like when I found out my parents were moving, when I dug into that, it was because my Christmas is going to look different.
Right.
I will be doing the same stuff, hanging out with my family, doing all of the things that normally would happen. The location has little to do with it. So
right.
I was able to move into acceptance relatively quickly with that. But I don't feel those types of losses like other people do. I don't know. Yeah, that I'm not trying to say one way is better than the other. It's just it's come to my attention that most people that I know anyway don't experience things like that like I do.
Yeah, and I remember that was something you were talking about last week too.
I was. Last week feels like a year ago.
No. You were, and maybe correct me if I'm misspeaking, but you were talking about.
My range of emotions.
Yeah, your range of emotions seemed to be different. Than most, and this feels like that would fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's not because I love people less or whatever. It's just physical distance doesn't feel important all the time. I don't feel less connected without physical closeness, I guess. I don't know. Right. So I'm not trying to diminish or take away from anything you said. It's just like I can't identify with that.
Right. No.
The change part, yes. Big. You have a lot of changes. My Moxie meter, out of a 10-point scale, I'm not at a 1 or a 0. Today I would say I'm probably, last week I think I said I was at a 4. I feel like I'm at a 4 still, but in a very different way, but on the upswing kind of. The last few weeks have been very overwhelming. After recording last week, the next day I hit a 1 and had basically, I guess, a meltdown for maybe 12 hours. I don't know, which that hasn't happened in a while. I think the last time was when I found out that my marriage was over, and it wasn't about being sad. It was rapid change that I cannot control. And it wasn't to the same level because that one was 2 days, but this was the first one that's happened where I just felt so irritable, edgy, confused because major things were happening. So I needed to get like tears and stuff out in order to figure out what was going to need to happen.
Okay.
So I've realized I did a lot of things. I reached out not only to my own doctor, but to an outside diagnostician for ASD as well. So I got that started already and filled out, you know, all these tests, but then also like a questionnaire, which took a long time, over a couple of days. But
now, did it take that long in general, or was it just you were having an emotional time with it?
No, I was probably doing it faster than probably most people would. It just was draining, but I was very motivated to do it.
Okay.
But it just takes a lot. You know, it was paragraphs for every question. And there was like, I don't know, with all the sub questions and stuff, like 50. Like it just took a while.
So not the same issue as the AQ10.
No. No.
Much less left up to.
Right. No.
That's good.
Yeah. So like it did spur like good change, but like the facts are the world is very loud still.
Okay.
Moving forward, I still haven't heard back from my psychiatrist. I really hope they're on vacation. That is an acceptable, you know, like the nurses have gotten back to me, still haven't heard from her. So I'm confused about that. I'll email probably tomorrow because it'll have been 2 weeks on Thursday.
That is odd because usually they will have like, they'll tell you to wait a long time, but they won't make you wait on an email.
Yeah. And I'm not even right. Like they have to respond to emails within 48 hours, but they have because the nurse did it, you know? So they're not in any legal trouble with themselves.
Yeah. But really you shouldn't be waiting for like, that shouldn't be on your concerns list.
Because the reality is that I tried going to the office yesterday and it was so hard. So much was going on. I could hear everything. And for whatever reason, I was like, no, I have to stick this out. I have to. It was very counterproductive. I mean, I got stuff done. It was just like, it felt like torture. And for what reason? Because I just told myself I had to. Like, that's not good. Right. So I don't think I'm going back in until Friday when things have calmed down because there's so much shit going on there that until I get actual noise canceling headphones, which I don't have, my earbuds are, but I can't wear earbuds all day. It hurts. Yeah. Like, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how the young ones, that's just their life.
Yeah. And it's probably not good for you.
Right. Right. Like I
used to be a sound designer. That was like my main gig when I was doing movies. And so I was always very worried about things like having earbuds in all the time. That just, not to get all grandpa-y, but it seems like that could have long-lasting effects on your hearing.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on the volume. I mean, I was listening to when I would have to work on something with words in it, it was like meditation music because I can't do just sound right now. But if it was just like checking emails, responding to stuff, whatever, I was listening to a book. But still, like, just it being so close, like, I don't know, that's just not really a long-term solution, or at least an all-day solution. Right. So I'm still kind of up in the air as what I'm going to do about all of that, because staying home sounds like it would be the right option. It's not for the type of job that I have. Right. But it's a fix for now, but it's not the long-term thing. And I would feel just as trapped if I only worked remote. I need flexibility. Right. Which we'll talk about later. So and this last week was tough. And so how I know I'm coming out of it is because now I've just become tired, which is, okay, all of the pent up energy and emotion and all of that stuff that all went on. And then just like, I'm a little bit more checked out, but I'm like, instead of giving myself shit, which I used to do all the time, like, oh, you shouldn't be feeling X, Y, or Z. It's like, well, I just went through a lot in the last 2 weeks and I have to conserve my energy still, because when I do have to go to the office, it's really challenging right now. So it's okay to not get all the things done that I normally do. And I'm still taking my medication and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't have the bandwidth. So
yeah.
emotional marbles is what someone had told me about. It's kind of the same thing with your window. Like I just have very few, and I deplete.
I often, I think we talked about this before, the spoon theory and then the fork theory.
Yeah, but I don't remember it.
All right. The spoon theory is that like everybody, and it's a different amount, but you have so many metaphorical spoons at the beginning of the day. And every time you do a task, you're giving up one of those spoons. And when you're out of spoons, you don't magically get more spoons. You're just out of spoons for the day.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different amount of spoons. Everybody has they call it fork theory for people with ADHD because every one of our tasks breaks off into 4 tasks.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I wake up with 2 forks lately. Something like that. And I usually wake up with like a 50 or 100. I don't know. A lot of them. Which that's how I enjoy being. And I'm like, oh, is this like some part of like a bigger cycle? I'm not ready to even look at all of that, to be honest. But it feels maybe a little bit like that, but also maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it is helpful for me. Like data helps me feel better. Like knowing what to do makes me feel better. Knowing things about myself brings me comfort in the moment, you know, like, okay, this is where I am on this thing. So there's just this little bit left, or like, you know, this is going to end. Like it is very hope inspiring to me, to be honest. But I guess it could sound like I'm intellectualizing or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, too, that's kind of in a broad stroke sense. I mean, that's what meditation is, or mindfulness is, you know, being aware of yourself in the moment. Which I think is a very helpful thing to help you with life in general.
It helps me engage in the moment too. Like it's okay to feel whatever it is that's going on because you're not going to be there forever.
Right.
You know, because I hear things about, you know, people who struggle with depression long-term and things. And, you know, I guess I never thought of it this way, but maybe that was like a fear that I had that would happen to me if I let myself feel anything. But that's definitely not something that is a struggle for me.
Right.
Why I avoid things that are sad, I don't know. And I always have. But that
I can't think of a more human thing than avoiding things that are sad.
Right.
Why I don't shoot myself in the foot every day, I don't know. But
true. Other than the fact I don't have a gun.
Yeah. Yet. No.
Yeah. Yeah. California. So yeah, I mean, not feeling the worst, feeling like I guess last week I was on a downer 4 and now I feel like I'm like a crawling up the ladder 4.
Yeah.
It feels different, but the same.
But the different in the same place, but pointed a different way.
Right. The trajectory is up for me.
I think, well, it's something we talked about off a mic the other day, or after the episode, I think that we're trying to like figure out some way to change the Moxie meter to a Moxie spectrum. So it wasn't locked in one linear dimension, but had 2 dimensions for stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we can just add stuff onto it because I see the validation for a scale. I think giving ourselves whatever number we, you know, the max needs to be.
And I mean, it's a good thing to point out in case our listeners hadn't figured it out by now. It's just a made up thing.
No, it's a real Moxie meter.
It's a real Moxie.
It's in the Encyclopedia Britannica 1978 version.
Oh, that's my favorite version.
Yeah, Michael Myers wrote it. Okay. You know, I've had violent verbal and written tendencies for a long time. I don't even remember if I said this last week. I could have. But I went to my parents over, you know, the Christmas holiday. And we were all looking through like our old stuff and saving what, you know, we actually really wanted because they're going to get rid of a bunch of our stuff, which, like, I don't know what parents do after like they save every single thing from first grade or whatever of their child's. Like eventually you have to give it up, or maybe you're super rich and have like a really big place where you can display it all. I don't know, but they're planning to get rid of stuff and I don't blame them. But all of the things that I wrote, it was really fascinating. Like I've had a very specific focus So one of them I dictated because this was preschool. I didn't know how to write.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about, I think I'd watched Hansel and Gretel a lot or listened to the story or something.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit different. But there's just a major theme of witches killing children.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote about that stuff a lot. And you can see it all through, like, from preschool all the way to, like, 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
I was gonna let me ask you this: how? Because like I know we've talked about like Rob Zombie and stuff like that, but how big are you on the horror genre in general?
I love horror films.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm not as into them, but I love like Halloween Horror Nights. I love all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Myers is my dude. That's how I know when I'm stressed is when he shows up in my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But I really
show up to be your friend.
No,
he's
doing what he does.
Yeah.
I am trying to get away, and he's just walking fucking slow, and I know I'm screwed. I love horror films. Just I haven't engaged that kind of content in a while.
Okay.
No specific reason that I can think of off the top of my head. It's just like I'm into other stuff right now.
Right. I think because I know like a lot of horror fans have that streak of enjoying artistic violence in their youth. Stuff that like other people might be like, oh no. I remember when I saw like something on A&E or something about Jack the Ripper. Mm-hmm. And I got very, very into Jack the Ripper for a little while when I was a kid. And I remember like I went to the library and I got out a book on Jack the Ripper. And I was like, I had done like reading and read and like memorized like the descriptions of how he mutilated the bodies. And then I saw a picture of it. And I remember like it clicking in my head right then of like, oh, this is very real. And I don't like this. This makes me feel bad.
Oh.
And like I closed the book there and put it away. But that was like the first thing in my life, like the difference between real violence and fantasy violence. Of it had been like a very not like it was like I knew Jack the Ripper was real,
but hadn't like you hadn't realized that people had actually died.
Yeah,
like that.
Or I realized, yeah, but it wasn't. I hadn't sat with it. I hadn't contemplated. It was over 100 years ago, and all of this stuff, and but like that still follows. Like I will watch any of the like disturbing horror movies or disturbing movies in general, but like I have like no love for like the Faces of Death series and stuff like that. I don't want to see real people die. I don't like that.
Hell
at all.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
And I'm like, that's not a judgment on people who do. Maybe it should be, but whatevs, as long as you're not killing people, whatever floats your boat. But like for me, but like I see that a lot, just that because I also had a very like violent imagination. Mm-hmm. And people tend to think of that as like a troubled child or somebody that grew up to be a serial killer. And I've like never raised a fist in violence in my whole life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, people say that, but then like it's such a thing now that it's like a meme and people talk about it. Like mm-hmm. all of these like, married women or whatever, super obsessed with true crime documentaries, like that's the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So it's not, anyway. But yeah, no, I definitely was into all that stuff as much as I could be as a kid. Mm-hmm. And like for a while, my parents were freaked out by it because I was like, ghosts I think are real. Because I mean, I've had many experiences and I only laugh because I know you don't believe a word of it.
I believe you've had experiences.
Oh, in general?
Yes.
But talking about it and engaging that stuff and it, I don't know. I know that I don't remember the specifics of it, but, I think that my parents were concerned for a while when I was in middle school, but then come to find out in adulthood, like my dad is super interested in all that stuff too. My mom is not, but that's okay. It's not for everybody.
No.
She doesn't like the violent stuff. She doesn't like the, spooky things. But yeah, I love watching like documentaries and things. I mean, right now I'm really into cults. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there right now.
I've joined like 3 of them.
I've only joined 3. I just find it super fascinating. The group think, everyone that says, oh, I could never do it. Like, never say never.
Right.
Until you're in someone's shoes, you don't know. But I mean, that's just kind of like my hyper focus right now, TV wise. I don't know. I go through phases, and like, once I've absorbed a lot of content about one thing, like all of this other stuff in this other realm has been creating stuff I haven't even paid attention to. So it like gives me like months worth of like constant streaming is kind of, I guess, maybe why I do this subconsciously. No idea. Maybe not. I don't know.
No, I was going to say, I kind of did something similar. I remember when I first got a Blu-ray player. I was very excited to get a Blu-ray player. And I'd always been such like a big horror fan, but like I had all these horror DVDs and all these horror VHSs, and I don't know, for some reason when I got the Blu-ray player around that time, I was like, you know what? And never a conscious decision, but I was like, this is like my sci-fi phase. Like I just kept getting sci-fi Blu-rays all,
you go through times.
Yeah.
And whatever you're into is just fine, unless you're hurting people.
Yeah.
Okay, so we left off on challenges last week. That was a really long tangent, but it's fun. So there are a lot of things we actually bring to the table that are kind of like undervalued. If someone has ADHD at work, I feel like that one is the most passable. People are more open-minded to those things. But I would say that, if someone discloses they have autism in any form, people have a tendency to be a little patronizing, possibly. And maybe they disclose down the road and then things change. I don't know. This is someone's experience I'm referring to. But like, there's some preconceived notions about different things, and then we haven't even mentioned, people who have difficulty with writing or reading or numbers or whatever. It forces you to think outside of the box. I don't know about you. I'm sure it does for you too. But like having ADHD, and I didn't even think about it this way, but so many things I've been able to find creative solutions for is because I had to, in whatever situation, work included. And I remember I was telling someone about this when I worked at, I used to, and one of the many things I've done, I was a manager at Coffee Bean, and I was at South Coast Plaza, which was relatively busy on the weekends.
Okay.
And like super busy. And we had always just ordered like, I don't know, like 8 blueberry muffins or 6 or something like that. And we would always sell out. And I was like, let me just keep like increasing this and see when we're going to not sell out. This didn't seem revolutionary to me. Okay. But somehow I became like the golden child of the district for figuring out how to sell blueberry muffins. And I'm just like, how is this? I'll take these accolades, but I don't think I deserve them because this doesn't seem illogical or really crazy.
Right.
This seems like something normal to do. Oh, here's this pattern. We keep selling out of these things. Oh, what if we just add 2 more for the next Saturday or whatever, and just like do it like that in like smaller increments, or take a big, it doesn't seem out of the box, but it was received that way. And I was just like, is this for real? Like, okay. Like this doesn't seem, like rocket science to me, but apparently in that world it was. I don't know.
I mean, and that's the thing. You got to kind of like, you got to take what you got to exploit those positives that come along because they're few and far between.
True.
There were probably, I don't know if you're like me, but especially, I mean, it wasn't as bad when I was working for my own company. But when I was on the clock or anytime I'm on the clock, oh my God, does time move so slow. Just mind-numbingly slow sometimes. So if you have something that, I don't want to speak for you, but if you have something that helps negate some of that other stuff, then yeah, use it and be happy about it. I was going to say grateful. Grateful's the wrong word.
I mean, yeah. I would guess that I'm not like you then, because I mean, occasionally time would go really slow, but usually not. And school and work, I think I'm just my not that other people's brains are not sponges, but I like to do things as quickly and as efficiently as I possibly can. And so when it comes to anything at work, I want to learn the newest thing. I want to do it better. I want to do it faster. So there's always like that level of engagement for me. So in that way, I felt like I was always like working super hard. I mean, not that anyone else wasn't. It's just like, okay, like let me just do this and this and this. But I'm curious actually if this has to do with the type of jobs that we had. Because until I got into this office situation that I'm in now, was always up on my feet doing like 100. You have a very sad mic this week. I was always up, moving, doing 100 things at once. So it kind of like naturally fed the ADHD-ness. Whereas you were in a call center and that would have been death. So.
Well, not only was I in a call center, I wasn't making calls. I was just doing files in a call center.
Oh.
But yeah, no, like what you're saying about like when I moved on to my own company, which was a post-production company. Yeah, because that was like my literal job was to learn new things. And so like I was taking it in all the time. I was building new skills all the time. And that, but also too, like I was salaried there. I could leave or not come in anytime I wanted to. And having that freedom and having that, that kind of, I don't want to call it subject matter, but that's the best term I can think of right now. That changed everything. Yeah. And then time was flying.
Yeah.
And I know that's, the whole thing of like time flies when you're having fun. It was still hard work.
Yeah.
But like,
you're more engaged.
Yeah. I was more engaged and to that extent, I was doing things that I felt were more useful. A lot of what I was doing at my day job was just legal compliance of keeping records.
Which is useful, but not in a way that meant anything to you.
Yeah. And even then, I don't even know if it was that objectively useful. Like the vast majority of the documents, like I scanned a lot of, like that was my job, was generally to scan stuff and to, file stuff for a certain period until it was ready to get moved out. But most of it was never getting looked at again. It was like just in case thing.
Well, and HIPAA compliance and regular compliance. Like you have to keep records for X amount of time.
Right. HIPAA, what's HIPAA again?
Well, I mean, maybe it's not completely HIPAA compliance, but it's possible. It's keeping personal information secure. Okay,
yeah, definitely fell under that because it was for a credit union I worked for. But yeah, so I mean, like technically it could, but like most of the stuff was never going to get seen again, and to the point where I don't think, or I know, maybe in different places, but like I know. The whole department and in fact the place I work for or our location completely left or is dissolved now after I left because they missed me so much.
Yeah,
they're like, Ronnie's not here. I don't want to.
No one's scanning anything, so no one's.
No, but like it was just like I said, it was a legal thing. And once they found a way to do it, they just phased that section out. And so like nothing really felt like it mattered. And I don't even mean on a big scale. I mean on a small scale. Whereas everything I did at my company, and not just because it was me, but everything felt like it mattered and it was important. And there was a reason to do it right other than just being compliant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that speaks to the fact that, like, when you're in the, if someone is in the wrong career period, it may feel like that, or maybe not. I don't know. But I know, at least for me, if I don't understand why I'm doing something, I cannot do it. I probably would have quit your job if I felt that way. Like, I would rather make less money and not hate everything and resent going to work. Like, that's just never worked for me. I've never had a job where I haven't been able to figure out how to make myself engage with it. It's either I figure out how to engage with it or I'm out because I can't deal with it.
Right.
I can't, you know, it doesn't matter if I'm making money. It doesn't matter if, you know, it's helping someone even. Like, if I hate it, it's over.
Right. Well, and two, that's a good way to look at it, because it is, it can be very draining. I will say, while I was working there, and the job that I had before that, which was just doing clerical stuff for an attorney, but I always, like, it was not my goal in life. Like, I was going to school when I was working for the attorney. After I had started working for the credit union, I was starting to build the filmmaking career with my friends. And so it was always, like, what made it standable, because I totally get where you're coming from, but what made it standable, it was like, well, this is just, it always felt like, you know, like a kid, it was like the vegetables I had to eat so that I could have dessert, which was me doing what I wanted to do.
I just cannot identify with that at all.
No.
And that, you know, there's so many different types of people. We can't all be the same.
Yeah.
I just can't do that. Not at work. I don't know. I wish I could do that.
No, it's not fun. There's no reason to want to do that. It's miserable.
Well, it might, you know, I don't know. I mean, my life's worked out fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. You can get wherever many different ways. I would not have been able to hang in there. I know. Yeah. I never have. The first time, okay, so my whole, like, professional career has been in autism services in some way. The very, very first exposure that I had to it, I was probably 23. Okay. I got a job. I was, you know, back in the day, Craigslist was not weird and like, I don't know what it would probably still was a little bit weird, but, like, there were more legit things. So I found 2 nanny jobs on there. And one of them was this dad needed someone to watch his child with autism, who I think he was 10 or 12. Okay. And looking back, I was like, man, I was set up to fail. Not on purpose. You know, well-intentioned, but the way that he described his kid, but there was no, like, okay, let's get to know him. It was like, okay, great. I have to go do this stuff. Just do these things and I'll see you later. And it was just like, I had no experience, no exposure to autism at that point. It was so hard. I was always been a babysitter, but this was, like, next level. And it was, like, so hot outside. And, like, by the end of the day, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. The kid, was, like, waiting for his dad to come home. They lived in, like, a gated community, and he just, like, took off out the front door. I didn't have shoes on because there was no shoes in that house. I had to, like, run outside and chase it. Like, this all was terrible. Like, he was like, take him to the train station. He loves trains. And I was just like, oh my God, this kid just, like, bolted away from me. Like, all of this stuff was just, like, so, like, not, now that I've been in that field for a long time, like, I would never put myself in that situation willingly. Also, just because of the safety issues.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, the kid eloping, I believe, is the technical term. As I have a son who elopes quite a bit. You know, it's great taking a kid who darts away to a train track. That's
I mean, and I'm sure when you're the parent and you have, instructional control, whatever you want to say, probably doesn't bolt like that, or that, and so you have things that you do. But it would have been nice to have been given that information before. That was not amazing. And I stayed. That was my first and last date, which I'm typically not like that. But I just knew like this isn't for me. I was stressed out all day. I don't know. I felt not able to take care of this kid very well, and maybe it was a disservice to that dad to give him a short notice, but I was also like, I can't subject myself to this knowing that I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And this has a lot of dangerous implications.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I have been on the flip side of that particular thing of, I used to go, this is pre-pandemic. We had, me and my wife would go to a because we're foster parents, I think I mentioned before, a fostering support group. And so, we, through some of the services we had, we arranged a babysitter to come watch our kids. And
like respite?
Not technically. Oh. This was this was like a literal babysitter through, one of the programs we were involved in, of which there were many. There's actually a lot of wonderful supports out there for foster parents. And so, that was, they paid for a babysitter, and the babysitter was like, oh yeah, I mean, I typically work with elder folk. And I was like, well, our son has autism, and it can, he displays a lot of the things that are typical of kids with autism. And she's like, oh yeah, no, I've worked with autism before. It'll be great. It's fine. And so she comes, and me and my wife go out for sushi, and then are going to go to the meeting, right? We didn't even finish our meal when we got a text message that said like, you need to come back. Your son is doing XYZ, and I refuse to. And he was like probably 6 or 7 at the time. And I'll grant you, it was, some of it was, there was hitting involved. Also, my son's teeny tiny. But like, and no, I'm not saying that any human should have to put up with being hit or anything like that. But because they had presented themselves
as a person with experience,
when we specifically warned them about the situation, I would have preferred that they just said, oh, that's not something I'm comfortable with. Oh, and I remember like it pissed me off because I've said I'm a pushover. I'm also very not confrontational. So this was like a huge confrontation in my mind. We got home, we had to cancel going to the thing, which was fine. And then we went home, which was fine. And she's like, yeah, said something about like, yeah, no, I can't, I won't put up with that from your son. She's like, your daughter was very well behaved, or your daughter is lovely though. And I was like, both my kids are lovely. And like, for me, that was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I think you made the correct decision, not only for you, but for that family.
Yeah. And I mean, now that would have been a breeze, or at least tolerable. I would have known what to do.
Right.
That whole thing about a person shouldn't have to be tolerating being hit. Okay. In most circumstances, yes. I do find that I run into that sometimes, like with people who are new to the field, that they request off cases because of aggression, which is something that they're trained for and prepared for beforehand. And, it's something that occurs, to me, a person reacts aggressively for whatever the reason is, whatever the function of that behavior is, but it all comes down to like a communication deficit, not being able to convey whatever it is they're trying to convey. Like, no, I want that, or I'm upset right now, whatever it is, not having those words or being able to say that, that pisses me off at work, because I'm just like, no, we told you about this. Like, yeah, we don't want you to get hurt, but it's like, there's a big difference between like getting, like flicked, or even, I don't know, I can handle a lot of pain or whatever it is. And I'm 6 feet tall. So maybe I am not giving enough credit to people who are shorter than me. That can very well be true.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, okay, yeah, but like we have strategies and stuff in place. If you do them, like this will go away relatively quickly, at least in intensity and frequency. Trust the process. But like, no, I don't know. I also had the benefit of being a nanny. I did return to autism, as a nanny, but they were twins. They both were heavily affected, and had all day services. So I got to see it all. I got to participate as a caregiver in parent consult. So I got like that view. So like becoming, an actual one-to-one provider was easy because I'd seen it, So I don't know. I'm just like, we trained you on this. We told you this could be out there. We're not going to put you in a situation where it is going to, you're going to be in major harm's way. Like there are some kiddos that are like that, or some clients that are like that. And we don't staff them with brand new people.
Right. Well, and to your point that I'm hoping you're making,
probably,
but there is like, at one point it's like, well, no one should have to deal with that. But there are, I don't even want to call them dangers or risks, but there are negative things associated with different jobs. And there needs to be people who can handle kids with those special needs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In a way that is safe and in a way that is effective. Because, it was, first of all, nothing is more, I guess, apropos than not being able to make it to your fostering support class because your foster kid hit the babysitter. But we had to cancel on that. That's okay. That's whatever. But like, what if we had gotten that because there was a medical emergency? What if we had gotten that because we were going on vacation? We were somewhere out of state at the moment, those, there needs to be people that can provide that service. And it's like, well, no one should be hit. And it's like, yeah, but also like nobody should be made incredibly uncomfortable by their job. But like, that's just not something you can guarantee if you're like one of those Alaska ice fisher dudes or women. People. I assume maybe some of them do that.
I think knowing what you're walking into is the key. Yeah. And not everything is for everybody. If your tolerance is low, that's okay. Just, don't say yes. Yeah. It's perfectly acceptable to be like, oh, like I actually don't have experience with this. I don't feel comfortable. Great. I'd rather know that than get you all trained up and tell you all about it and then tell you exactly what is going to happen. And then it happens. And then you're like, I can't do this. That is annoying to me, but also still probably acceptable. It's just annoying to me. But I don't deal with people directly like that anymore. So I'm not hit with that in the face all the time anymore, which it used to be a major pet peeve, which, you know what? It is definitely okay for people to not want to be in that field. It is hard. Yeah. For me, seeing the progress outweighs all of, any type of like aggression or, sometimes bodily fluids are flying, but all of that is negated by like watching progress and, being able to see a kid go from like smashing their head against the wall at 3 years old to at 6 years old. We're working on losing a game, that's such a drastic difference of the things, and so like being able to watch that over time was much more rewarding. There's a lot of reward there, and I just was naturally really good at it, and not everybody is. No. And that's okay. We're not all meant to do the same thing, as I've already said. We can't all do the same thing. Yeah. We can't all have the same jobs. So that all came off of creative thinking. Yeah. And I guess you can tell I've said it, but I've been in the ABA field for, what year is it? 18 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird when you think of how long you've done a thing and it's like, oh, that's like a human growing into an adult. I shouldn't have been alive that long.
Right. I don't feel like I'm in the middle age.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel 40, but here it is. Okay. So some of the things that, that we can bring to the table. This is across many different diagnoses under the neurod umbrella.
Right.
Creative and innovative thinking. Attention to detail, which is something that is, we're not known for that, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
Logical and systematic thought processes. Great. I already told you I feel like a fucking computer sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really great with decision making.
Yes. Two things real quick. I hope it's not, I hope I'm not spoiling further down your list, but the attention to detail thing, I think that very much falls under hyperfocus. Like if you hit a thing that has like your hyperfocus, and by the way, not like hyperfocus isn't always preferred things. Sometimes you just hyperfocus on a thing.
Like the compulsion to finish whatever said thing is, even if it's torturing you.
Yes. Oh. I don't even want to keep going. Oh, just thinking about that feeling. But yeah. And so I wanted to add, just put that in there, hyperfocus. And then, what was the other one you mentioned?
Logical and systemic thought processes, attention to detail, creative and innovative thinking.
I agree with all those. I don't remember what I was going to say specifically.
Well, let's just keep going. Enhanced pattern recognition. I think that's why I've been so good at all the jobs that I've had, personally. Superior memory. Some of us. It's getting worse, mine, but I definitely remember more than the average person would say that they would. And this is like school-wise. I know I'm not talking about like memories, but like absorbing text and information and being able to recall it. I know that I've joked about it here, but in certain contexts, that is like really good for me. Let's see. Sustained and intense focus, hyperfocus. There you go. Yeah. Ability to work independently, almost exclusively, and sometimes to my detriment. I hate group work.
I remember actually both of my filing jobs. One of my favorite places to be was we always had like external filing rooms. Like one, it was like a rented space down in the parking garage. And the other one was like a special room that we had that was away from all the other offices. Like you had to have a code to get into. Oh, I could do so much work in those. Just
you could hyperfocus.
Yeah, I could hyperfocus, but also like one of the things, and this is to tie back into the diagnosis episode. But one of the things I did. One of the things that particular diagnosis of ADHD with autistic traits and anxiety, I've known I've had anxiety for a long time, and I think that I don't mentally give that the space that it deserves. I focus a lot on the ADHD, but there is a freedom for me from the anxiety end of things, being away from people. Like I can just work the way I want. I don't have to worry about being perceived. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I can do whatever weird tics I happen to have going on at that time. So yeah, ability to work alone. That's also like it's still a little weird to me, but like when that was pointed out that some people just don't like working alone, I was like, but really?
I prefer to be alone most of the time.
It depends on what it used to depend on what I'm doing. I think most stuff now, I generally, at least from a working standpoint, prefer to work alone.
I'm across the board.
Yeah.
I do have room for friends and things.
Yeah.
But I like my own company. And that it extends to work. It just has always turned out that I either understand what is being asked of me fast, and it's faster for me to just do it than to tell someone else or rely on someone else to help or do it. I mean, now I can't do that. There's too many things. But also, like, now that I'm in a position where I have some say-so as far as, like, you know, what we have at my job now, the administrative team anyway, it's very cohesive and very good. And so I can rely on other people. And there are things that I don't want to do. I don't want to do anything to do with recruiting, marketing. Like, I don't love that stuff. I could try. I could learn things about it, but other people are motivated to learn those things, so we'll just let them. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. So, but
I was very much that way about client interaction when I ran my own company with the post-production and the editing and all that stuff. I think there was like one client where I was the main contact for.
Yeah. I mean, I was put in charge of a lot of people a lot, and it does make sense, and I can do it. And I can do it well. Like, I have I don't know what it is, but like, I can bring things together in a way that satisfies most parties, which is why I've always been shoved into management, even though that has never been my goal. As I already said, I didn't mean to get into the C-suite. It just happened. Doors just continue to open for me. Oh, my life is so hard.
I just kept stumbling over all this money.
I mean, money and access at work, like, people are just like, you're just so great at this. Let's just keep promoting you. And that's just what's happened, regardless of the job or the setting, which I just accept.
Yeah. There are worse problems to have.
There are. I mean, I don't want to frame this as a problem. Right. It's not a problem. It's just like a pattern in my life. Like, and pattern recognition, just going in and just like learning. I don't want negative feedback, so I'll do everything in my power to keep everyone off my back. And that means doing my job.
Well, I think that's stupid. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, well, think what you want. It served me well.
That's just because you said I don't want negative feedback.
Oh yeah, fuck you. Yeah, I don't want someone to come back and say, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do this. And if I know I'm supposed to do something, I will just do it. Because I don't want to hear, you didn't do this. Like, that is just it's an internal scream. And it's kind of perfectionism, but also kind of not. And it's not like, obviously people need to get feedback. Otherwise we don't grow. I'm open. It's just like, I don't want it for something like that I already knew I was supposed to do. Like, I want to learn things. I don't want to be told how stupid I am. That's how I interpret that, I guess. I don't know.
No, and that's like, I was talking to a friend of mine who is, I believe, a chef, but somewhere in the culinary world. And for the record, my friend is completely the expert on this subject. I like to cook, but I've never worked in a restaurant. I wouldn't dream of it. That's never been a path of mine. But like, that's the thing we were talking about, that like, I was like, I don't know, man. We were talking about Gordon Ramsay, and I was like, the older I get, I just think it's unnecessary. The yelling and and like, I get where people are like, oh, it pushes me and it makes me a better blah, blah, blah. And like, when I was going to school, I had teachers like that. And I don't think that I got anything particularly more from them than I did that teachers that were not yelling. When it happens in the film world, which I was at least tangentially a part of, obviously not the mainstream. But like, you know, when the thing happened with our favorite newsie, Christian Bale, where he freaked out on the set of Terminator. You remember that whole thing?
I do.
He yelled at the guy. You know, people were saying, oh, artist this. I'm like, no, it's a fucking human being. I don't think you have the right to talk to somebody else like that. When Tom Cruise freaked out when they were, when you know, COVID
You've mentioned him twice on air.
Which is weird. I don't like Tom Cruise.
Maybe that's why.
Obviously a talent, but like when he freaked out and when we were coming off of COVID and it's like, oh, the world's looking at us. And, yeah, he had like a fit caught on the thing. I was like, I actually agree with what you're saying, but there's no reason to yell at another human being like that. I don't think that does anything good.
Yeah.
Which is just, I don't know what any of this has to do with anything, but
I think we were, I don't remember exactly either. I think I probably brought it up in some way. I will agree, except when I play softball, I haven't for a while because my back's all messed up, but like people generally cheer for you as you go up to bat. I hate that. I tell people to tell me I suck. So I'm like, no, I don't. And then I hit well. It's like a thing. So I can understand why maybe someone would be motivated by that. I don't like people yelling at me in a high pressure situation and stuff like that. I did used to work in a restaurant. Not at Gordon Ramsay wouldn't go there and it's closed now. But I mean, I was working as a cook at the end. I was a prep cook and then a regular cook. And it was, you know, like nice food, like New York steak, you know, pasta, all these things. So I learned, it gave me a good foundation. Definitely didn't want to do it, but the time management part of it, I loved. You know, I was never bored because I was like learning stuff and like having to, you know, time, if someone, you know, put in a ticket with like an angel hair pasta, which is like the quickest thing, and then a well done New York steak, which is like the longest thing, you know, like getting that all together at the same time, like that was like fun, and every ticket was a challenge. I loved it. That part I love. Not smelling like food, mostly onions and fish. That's disgusting. And bleach, because you got to clean up at the end of the day.
Bleach is my favorite of those foods.
I guess don't drink it. Don't inject yourself. But like that part of it, you know, and if someone was yelling at me to do something faster, if I was fucking it up, which I was not, but like if I was, but then, you know, when you get a compliment for someone like that, it means a lot more. So I can understand in that world how that would be motivating. Yeah. But also if you are more sensitive to that in general, which I don't like people yelling at me either. Yeah. Or whatever. I mean, it hasn't happened much, but it's degrading another person isn't great. Yeah. Yeah. And that's and like, honestly too, it isn't that I'm sensitive, which I'm not denying. I'm very sensitive. But it doesn't seem like an efficient way. And I think one of the things was, especially after I had some employees myself. Like, I don't see how degrading them as humans would have helped anything. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I err on that side, but I can see how the other side can work. Sometimes it's just not my way. Yeah. And maybe it is good, maybe it's not. Maybe people get issues from that. I don't really know. Yeah. Well, but like if Judge Judy ever paid me a compliment, I would be very thrilled with myself because she doesn't do that. So I do have this like I think maybe it's perfectionism that drives that too. You know, like for all the shit you get from Gordon Ramsay, you know, the time that he gives you a compliment, you're like, all right, like I'm onto something, you know, I don't completely suck, because it takes a lot for him to say that, you know? Right. So it could be something like that. And like, he's not like that outside of that situation too. So it could be a situational thing too. Because if I were to verbalize everything that was happening when I was in a high stress, I need this stuff done, I could see myself doing that and thinking everyone's a fucking idiot. Like, but saying it out loud doesn't feel good. I don't know. That's why I work alone. I was gonna say, the amount of times in situations, work and otherwise, I have said to myself, fuck everybody that isn't me right now, is high. But I know that's a temporary thought and not one I should take out on coworkers, friends, and family. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But working alone solves that problem. We're very good at working alone. And sorry, let's see. Sorry, I don't know where they came from. Enhanced productivity and dedication, I would say yes. Ability to find practical and effective solutions, yes. Honesty and trustworthiness, at least for us. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's like two sides of that coin. Not everybody with a diagnosis of something under the NeuroD umbrella is going to be honest all the time. But like, I can't sleep at night if I've told a half truth, let alone a lie. You know, omitting is the safest, but it still doesn't feel good. Right. You know, I would just rather ignore a complete question and not have to answer it than have to lie. Yeah. I guess. I am very uncomfortable with that. Like, I'll come clean pretty quickly if I'm there. The only times I've ever had to lie have been work related, actually. And it's because of like the process that is in place for whatever situation, like, and you can't avoid it. It's just really awkward. But okay, so in the case that someone suspects child abuse, right? Okay, that's a real thing. Everyone's a mandated reporter. Everybody in California is a mandated reporter. But more specifically and more, what?
And this may be a stupid question. Do you mean that literally?
I believe so.
Then how come you have to then how come they make a big deal about it when you enter a position where you are a mandated reporter?
I don't know, but okay. I do know that it's probably because you work with kids in that situation.
Because I became a mandated reporter when I became a foster parent.
I believe, we'll have to Google this or something, but I believe everybody is. But when you start working directly with children or dependent adults, you can get in a lot of serious trouble if you do not report something, right? Which is kind of like a double-edged sword, because, I don't know, like some places will say, well, you need to tell us, whatever agency or entity, like school districts or whatever, tell us when you make a CPS report. I'm like, well, why would we do that? Like, but I understand the merit there so that it's not a surprise, but what if it has to be a surprise? You know, like it just, that whole situation is very awkward. And there is some lying and covering up that has to occur in order to make sure that the source remains anonymous, because that is the point of being a mandated reporter. You do put down your name when you're filing a report, but the person that investigates cannot disclose that. And actually, so in a situation that I had, a parent, I've had a few of those and it's gone fine, but, the person who wanted to make the report, she did tell me about it. And so I, supported her in what she wanted or what she was going to do and knew about it. And then the dad called me and asked me and then said that the lady that came told him who did it, who wrote it. And I was like, this is a big clusterfuck.
That's not great.
But anyway, he had to figure it out, or he figured it out. It was just like really hard. And I was put in a position where I was cornered and I had to say things and I couldn't disclose, it just really sucked.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I am a mandated reporter. And it's just like,
I'm listening. I'm going to Google my thing.
Okay. This is just a reality of dealing with children that are neurodiverse or have been part of the system, of which all my kids have both of those things going on to some degree or another. And so I have been on the other end of a man. I've been mandated reported on, which, never feels good. But in my particular case, it was because of something that my daughter said in therapy. And so, and I was there with my daughter, or no, I think it was something I informed my daughter's therapist about because I was concerned about it. And she's like, and not something I did, something that happened. And she's like, well, I have to report this. You're a mandated reporter. I'm a mandated reporter. And she explained that to me before doing it. And I know that was really helpful, but that's the preferred way. Yeah. And also she was in a place where she could make that happen. We had already a relationship. She also knew I was very familiar with the rules of mandated reporting. And so, but it's still like, it never feels good to have CPS at your house.
I'm sure. The fact that they even came to your house, maybe it's because of the foster system thing. Because if there's none of that already pre-existing, it is very odd, the things that they do and don't go for.
Right.
Not up to us, but the things that they choose to investigate. I've learned you can't lose your kids if they're your biological children unless there's drugs involved or you beat them within an inch of their life. And maybe some sexual stuff. I don't know. But like, it just seems just so hard to, kids are in situations that they maybe shouldn't be for too long is what I'm trying to say. I
would say this. I would, just from being in the system and having some, or being part of the system, I guess. I don't want to misrepresent that I was in foster care. I wasn't. But you mostly don't do those things. Never underestimate. It is a fucking ugly, broken system, and shit happens in it. Real bad shit sometimes.
I watched the documentary on Netflix about Gabriel. I don't know, but that should be enough information to go look it up. It is a horrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And so, like, I have, luckily, again, I don't want to get into details because that's not my details to give, and I'm not sure legally I could.
Right.
But I have been in situations where the fact that a child was in my custody was patently ridiculous. And luckily, the system eventually worked. And usually in short amounts of time, we were able to get those things ironed out. But you don't ever want to live with having your kid taken away.
Right.
That is like a kind of deep shame that, especially in like the couple of cases I'm talking about, the person certainly never deserved. So I would just say I do agree with you for the most case, but never underestimate. And also, I guess just throwing it out there because people judge birth parents from the foster care system very harshly and kind of throw them into windows. And each situation is different, and certainly there's bad people out there. But in just as many, if not more cases, there's people that shouldn't be in the system at all that end up in the system. But also, there's the old Beatles line, all you need is love. That's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
not when it comes to raising another human being. I have known plenty of kids that were loved very deeply by people who weren't capable of keeping them safe. And that is a big other issue of how we deal with that predicament. But the general bias against birth parents in foster care is, I think, is unnecessary and incorrect.
Yeah, because I used to run a CPS funded group for parents whose children were taken away. So the stories that they were telling, it was all, I don't know. I don't think everyone gave me every detail, but they were at a rehab. So it was all drug related stuff. And they all really loved their kids. I don't feel biased against birth parents. I'm probably more biased against foster parents. Not that not everyone is bad. It's just,
I will agree with you in that, I am not one of those ones that's like, oh, you think foster parents are you do. There's a lot of bad foster parents.
There's a lot of bad everything. No one industry, no one profession, no one type of person, parent, whatever. No, it's not a black and white issue. No. There are many good, many bad, many neutral, many, it's a whole stratification there. Because last week we were talking about, the veneration of teachers, and how you're not on that boat. And I was, because I didn't know any better. Like all the teachers that I had were relatively fine, except for that one, and then I ran into the one where she was such a nice lady, but these kids were fucked for 9th grade. I don't know. That job was not being done. Okay. So, well, okay, we have the reduced concern with social pressure, which, yes, I fucking hate small talk. I don't want to engage in all. I can do it. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's necessary, so I do it. I do.
I was going to say it's such a weird way to phrase it because I thought of it the opposite way when you said it. The reduced concern with social pressure. I was like, no, I was concerned every day with the social pressure of having to go in and talk to people.
Yeah.
I did love, I heard this years later, like on a TikTok. TikTok didn't exist when I was working in an office, but it was my favorite thing because I realized subconsciously I had started using this technique. They're like, if you have trouble in an office talking to your neurotypical or your neurotypical coworkers, a little hack is to just say what day of the week it is. Neurotypical people love talking about the day of the week for some reason. And I remembered how often I would do that of like, hey, how's it going? And I'd just be like, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday. Am I right? Just say the name. And I that one really got to me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I know that one.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that one. I mean, I think I don't know. I just let my weird hang out now.
That's what I try and do now.
Okay. A strong sense of social justice and effective empathy, which is kind of what we were already just talking about a bit. I definitely have that string of social justice and everything. And it's a driver. So like I am in a helping field, you know, it is probably why I kept coming back. Not everybody is motivated by things like that, and that's okay. I can't take up every cause, but for the ones that I feel strongly about, I can do something, which is what I'm currently doing in a way.
The amount of times I almost quit my job because I thought somebody was mistreated at my job was outstanding, especially when you consider that literally at every job I ever worked, except for the one I ran myself, I was bottom rung. Nobody like everybody was doing better than me. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, I can't believe they did that to this person. I should fucking quit. And it's like, this is not going to help that person. Sure shit is going to help me.
Right.
But like I felt it every time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing with.
Yeah. I mean, it's a strength, you know, if you felt that strongly, you could harness it and do something about it, Mm-hmm. Intense interest in specific things, and enjoyment of non-autistic people. Oh, enjoyment of tasks. Enjoyment of tasks. This says non-autistic people might find challenging. What I would say non-neurod people might find challenging. Like, I love data entry. I find it so fun and interesting, and it's the monotony of it and the repetition that I love, and that drives a lot of people nuts, and I love it. But I don't get to do it that often, so I'm not happy about that part. But I mean, just stuff. That's an example.
I was gonna say I do not love data entry.
See?
But part of it is I am. That is not an area where my attention to detail shines. I often misspell and reverse numbers. Mm-hmm. If only they had a term for someone like that. But yeah, and that's just been the way I've been my entire life. Mm-hmm. So data entry, the amount of mistakes I make on it or how slow I have to go to get it correct, drives me insane.
Oh.
But one thing I will do this for fun. I love making a good spreadsheet. Oh my God. A good spreadsheet? Ah.
I mean, yes, I don't have the best knowledge of Excel to make it exactly as I want, and I have to change it a few times before it's right.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't say I get off on that.
A good spreadsheet is ever changing. You never make it.
Oh.
I don't know. But like I play, which is weird. I don't like football in general. Like I'll watch the Super Bowl, but I play fantasy football every year.
That sounds terrible.
No, because you get to make a spreadsheet.
No, you get to make a spreadsheet. I'm not doing
and I'm the only one making a spreadsheet. The rest of my folks, my league, I guess, don't make spreadsheets. I just like making a spreadsheet to calculate things because it is such, and I'm terrible at it, but it's such a fun game of economics. And like, my wife sometimes makes fun of me for playing it. Like, oh, look at you caring about sports. I'm just not into sports. And I'm like, and she's a huge D&D fan. And I'm like, this is just Dungeons and Dragons, except for, which by the way, everybody who plays fantasy football and makes fun of D&D players, this also goes for you. It's the same game, except for instead of dice rolls, it's games that are played.
Yeah, both are. I tried playing D&D in my master's program. Actually, someone invited some of us from our cohort because they did it, and I was like, "This is like the longest RPG I've ever played. I hate it." I was like, "This is like so drawn out." I was like, "This is not going fast enough for me at all." I did not enjoy it.
I will say, I am not a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons myself, because I don't particularly like the role playing element of it. I don't like pretending to be somebody else. Not like that sounds like a moral stance. It's just like the acting thing isn't fun to me. But I do get in on some Magic the Gathering. But that's just me.
Yeah, not me either.
You don't know. You never played.
You're right. I just... it's the type of... My brother played RPGs. He played every Final Fantasy and all of the surrounding types of games. When Zelda came out on Nintendo, I was really trying to get into it. Fourth grade, maybe. I was like, this is going to be so cool. I literally named my avatar Cool. And as soon as it was my turn to play, I didn't know what to do. Like, I got lost. I kept going to the same places because I discovered that for video games to be fun for me, I need it to be linear. I need to be guided as far as where I'm going. I don't need free access to whatever this universe is. I'm not motivated by that. I like the idea of it, but it's just not going to happen for me. So the way that I reconcile this, which might be weird, is I just have a secret love and affinity for Dragon Force, and they are a band that sounds like playing a video game, an RPG epic video game, and that's enough for me.
I was gonna say, when you said it, I was like, I've never played that game before.
It's not a game.
No, they're like the crazy guitar players, right? Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're like super. I love it because it's like dramatic and super complicated, metal, but not the scary kind for people. So like, it still might be like offensive to the ears, but not because they're talking about death or whatever people think is happening in death metal. It's just super fun. It makes me giggle. I don't know. Every time. It doesn't matter. Like, I just love it. I'm like, I'm playing a video game, but I'm not. That's how it feels.
Nice.
Okay, so I skipped over to work hacks because we kind of already were segueing into there. So these are the ones that they laid out, and I actually did quite a few of these as I wrote them out. Okay, so maximizing your energy. When is your laser focus? What time of day? Structure your tasks around that. For me, I do this, and the morning is my best brain time. So when it's time for work things, like that's when I do the harder, more heavy duty stuff, because I have the mental focus for it. In the afternoon, I already said I'm not an afternoonie. I take an afternoonie, so I can be. Yeah, in the afternoon, it is really hard for me to like focus on like tasks that require a lot of like my full attention. So structuring your day around when that happens, if you have that luxury or ability, wise to do so.
Yeah, I would say that's a big one I use now. I know, despite how often I lie to myself and I say I will do some work after the kids go to bed, I'm never doing work after the kids go to bed. Like, I know that like that, I have to do my work while the kids are out of the house. It's just, that's, there's no way it happens while they're in their house. So I have that shorter time frame. And when I'm talking about work for this sense, I edit this podcast. But I can do that while the kids are in the house. I've been editing long enough. But the other one is I help train AI robots, so that they will take it easy on me when they take over the world. But like, I know
not a good situation.
Oh yeah, but like, I know, like you, of like, I have to get this done by 1:00. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be in it. And if I lose that strain of attention, then I will be doing subpar work that may be punished with me not getting any work anymore.
Or it will take you 5 hours to do something that would have really only taken you 1.
Yeah. Which again will fall under the subpar work.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't tangent on that. I was going to say people I don't know. My capacity to do work is so rapid, but like, I don't know. I can do things very fast. I always have. I got in trouble in 2nd grade because I got my math packet done before the smartest kid in class. And the teacher yelled at me for it, which I'm like, I don't know, what do you want me to do? She's like, Adam's not even done yet. I'm like, okay, but I am. I don't know. Why
you can call me Adam from now on.
Right. Why am I in trouble? Yeah, I don't know. But like, things can draw on like that, and it's just not even worth it.
I will say it is something that I learned back when me and my filmmaking friends were getting started. Is, we were young, early 20s, mid 20s, and we would shoot. We all had day jobs, and we would shoot nights and weekends, and like, when we would shoot, we'd fucking shoot because we were shooting these things on no budget, and so we would go for like, I think once we went for 25 hours. There's a shoot that was 25 hours long, but like, a lot of times we would go, 15 hours, stuff like that, just because we got to get this stuff done, right? And that feels like so rock and roll, and that feels like so like, we're young, we're doing this, we're taking care of our shit. And then we looked at the footage, and it's like, we can't use any, like, at a certain point, we're like, we can't work past 12 hours because if we do, none of it's usable. This is all weird garbage. We were all loopy as shit. I mean, like, we weren't high. We might as well have been. None of this makes any goddamn sense.
Yeah.
This is, so there is that element of it too.
For sure. Another one, build a routine. I like routines. Take breaks, not great at it. For me, I would rather eat during lunchtime and work at the same time. It's not like I actually leave or check out earlier. It's just what happens to me. I don't know. Like, for me, taking a break, I just come back to shit that I would have rather just dealt with at the time. But that's not typical.
No, I was never like, especially when I had the office job. People are like, oh, it's only a half-hour lunch break. And I was like, I'll make this clear. I want to go home. I don't want to stay an extra half. It takes me half an hour to eat, if that. I don't particularly. I'd just rather go home. I want to get stuff done. Which was very helpful at, when I was working kind of hourly, and this is, something a lot of people have talked about of working hourly, but it's not the greatest incentivizer to get a lot done, because whether you get a lot done or whether you get a little done, you're making the same amount of money. And it's bigger than that.
Oh yeah. Labor laws now. I mean, you have to take your scheduled breaks. Otherwise,
right.
You have to be paid X amount after a certain time. Like, it's complicated, and not, now that I have to care about that stuff.
Yeah.
People really need to take their breaks if they're hourly.
You
deserve them too. Like,
of course.
I will say, taking a 10-minute break or taking a walk in the neighborhood, if I'm on location at my work, I will take a walk in the neighborhood, and that does feel good, and I'm not answering shit there.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I will say, and this is like I am an ex-smoker of cigarettes and also ex-vapor. But I know like that was part of because we had to take I think it was 15-minute breaks. 2 15-minute breaks a day.
Now it's 10 minutes.
Okay. And maybe it was just company policy to give us 2:15. I don't know. You take your random guess at which 3 of the credit unions I worked for. But I think that was not all of, but a large reason of why I smoked is if I didn't have cigarettes to smoke, then I had no idea what I was doing on those breaks. It was otherwise it was just me sitting around awkwardly. And this was too before I had like a smartphone of any type. And so it was like, I'll just sit here and look like a serial killer, I guess. But instead I was like, no, I'll sit here and smoke and look cool.
Whenever the Nintendo DS came out, I was looking forward to breaks because I got real addicted to Guitar Hero. Mm-hmm. So they came out for that on the Nintendo DS too. So I would play that on a 10-minute break. I don't remember what year that was. Okay. Set goals and expectations. Okay. I do that.
I feel like everybody sets goals and expectations.
Right. Schedule check-ins with emails and messages. I think that is a good point. Like, if you're the kind of person that can't have everything running at the same time. So, like, for me, I can have everything up. And, like, even if I see something new come in on my email, if I'm doing something else, I don't have to look at it right away. Mm-hmm. If that stresses you out, though, I could see the merit in being like, okay, I'm going to check my email, the last 15 minutes of every hour or whatever it is, so that you don't forget about it. Because, sometimes things come in you need to attend to. Right. Same with like messages, whatever the messaging system is.
Sure.
I do think that is important, for the things that need to be checked regularly, but are also a distraction if you're, hyper focusing on something.
Right.
Because that does get annoying because I'm just like, why is everyone needing to talk to me about X, Y, and Z? So I ended up creating a little bit of separation so that instead of everyone coming to me with the same kind of stuff, it's only like 3 or 4 people, so there's a I don't remember what analogy I was going to use, but like there's a degree of separation there.
Okay.
So that I'm not getting inundated with the same types of things, like now there's a filter for me, which has been great because, for messages, it's harder for me to ignore them. Mm-hmm. Other people do great at it and it drives me crazy. But also if you get it by the end of the day, then you're not following policy. So
nice. I was going to say the emails are a weird one for me, emails and messages, because it trips my anxiety, which I am also trying to acknowledge as part of me. So, I have many times thought of brilliant systems for making sure I get my emails or making sure I get my messages and staying on top of them. And then just the slightest thing will go wrong. And then I have like anxiety and fears about opening them. So I will end up with mailboxes full and I'll never delete them. But they end up on that procrastination list that isn't like, I don't feel like it right now. I'm feeling lazy. Mm-hmm. Of like fear of opening it.
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. So it's that to me is like one neurodiversity fighting the other neurodiversity.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And it just takes a commitment to just opening them no matter what. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to muster that sometimes.
And it's weird because it's not that scary and it immediately becomes less scary even if it's bad. But in that moment, it's hard. It's really hard.
It is. Okay. let's see if there's any more interesting things. Oh, physical activity before boring tasks. That's a good idea. Like taking that walk around the neighborhood, or like just getting up and like walking into the bathroom or something, getting some of your wiggles out. Triage tasks every morning.
Cigarettes.
There you go.
Because each one was 7 minutes, and that got me to 14.
Oh.
Plus then walking up and down the stairs. Left me a little over 15 minutes, but within the thing. Nobody was tattling on me.
Oh, that's good. I would have. It would have made me crazy.
Ronnie took 16 and a half minutes for his break. Again.
Mm-hmm. Maybe in your field, it's not a big deal. When you're working with kids and someone's, this is like in the school setting, when someone's covering for you and you're taking that long, like that's just rude.
Right.
But different situation. Let's see. Triage tasks each morning. Yes, I have a to-do list that I create for work specifically and home, and I have a lot of lists going on. Take a lot of notes, keep a written record of requests so you don't lose them. Limit your availability for drop-ins. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I guess that's kind of what I'm doing now because of the sensory shit. But like, I'm just physically not there. I also decided that, when my door is closed, I'm going to lock it because there are 3 people at work that two will knock and just walk in. And then 1 will just walk in. And while none have malintent and I'm not doing any weird stuff, I just need that buffer, because if I'm in the middle of like a task and someone just walks into my office, you can see it on my face, I'm sure, like very dysregulated. Just like, what the fuck? Like I'm doing something. I was gonna say, why are you here? I just need that second. Literally, it's just a second, probably maybe 10 of just like, okay, stop. Someone's going to come talk to you now. I just need that time to tell myself that so that I can disengage enough to not be a complete mess.
I am very much that way, and I work at home. And but I was going to say that's actually one of the things that on the whole headphones versus earbuds thing is I find if you have earbuds in, people either don't notice or they just like, I guess they've become so innocuous with daily life that people will be like, oh, hey, blah, 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 blah. But if you have like full on headphones on,
they think you're on a call.
Well, either that's
or a Zoom meeting.
Oh yeah. But they'll at least be like, they'll not want to startle you. They'll not want to. So they will they will introduce themselves more slowly.
True. Good idea.
And not just, usually not just be like, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's fine, but like I had come to, but then I was like, I have a lock. Anyone could get in. It's not like going to keep out the Terminators, but it's enough of a buffer that if someone comes in that situation, I just need that 5-10 seconds of like, someone's going to talk to you now. Like I just need to disengage enough, and if it's just a hey, I don't know. I don't know why it's so dysregulating, but it makes me just like cringe to the maximum and like internal screaming, and just like it makes me unreasonably angry, I would say, because these people obviously need to speak with me. Yeah. Enough so that they're coming to my office versus just sending me a message.
Well, and I think too, it may have to do with like the changing of gears so quick. And because I have problems with that. I'm not somebody who does 2 things at once. I'm certainly not somebody who starts a second thing once I'm doing a certain thing.
Oh, I've got 100 things going.
But
talking is not one of them.
But yeah, well, that's like the thing of like, even if like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm dropping footage and I'm working on the AI job, or, I'm doing some editing and I'm keeping an eye on the kids, but that's what I'm planning on doing. And that's part of the thing that I decided to do. But when I'm like working on something and then you start talking to me, I was like, this was not in my brain of things to do. I need a second to acclimate to this. But also while that acclimation is happening, I am losing information of what you're saying, and I am falling behind on the task I am doing. which is like two things all at once. And I don't like it.
For sure. You know, and especially if it happens in the morning when my brain power is great and I don't need to be bothered with talking to someone. I just don't love to talk to people. And it's not their fault. It's just me. Let's see. Request and advocate for accommodations. I have one written into my contract kind of, but working on actually getting accommodations. We'll follow up on that next week. I hope to have them by then because it's been almost 2 weeks, but
yeah,
there you go.
Well, and also like, I think it's getting better. I think we are starting to recognize this more in the workforce. But I think like there is this kind of idea that almost kind of like an employer worship, whereas like, no, asking for an accommodation is a sign of weakness, or granting an accommodation is doing something special for somebody. When really it is just an employee and an employer coming together saying, hey, this would help me to do the job I do for you better. And then an employer saying, it is worth it to me for your increased, productivity or even comfort, to do this thing. And it's just that simple. You can fucking leave ego out of it and weird power games. That is the one thing I fucking did hate about offices is egos and weird power games.
I don't think those things are going on where I work.
That's good.
Yeah. And cultivating that culture has a lot to do with it. Not that I did it single-handedly, but it was definitely a point to, make sure that the right people get into the right jobs so that we don't have this weird power situation. Right. I don't like that. I do think some people probably act differently in front of me now, which because I have my title and people only known me as this, then I guess I could see that. But also I feel like I'm approachable, but maybe not. I don't know. I got RBF. And I guess I talk about myself a lot. I don't know. Maybe not a lot. I don't know. But okay. So before we end, just like some career paths to consider that are maybe more friendly. I mean, for me, I've always found like if I could be up and doing things, or like in the ABA field, I was like constantly going somewhere. So I'd have a session that was like 2 hours long, and then I'd hop in my car and go to the next, or walk down, the hallway and go to the next kid or whatever it is. But that change of scene for me, 2 hours was about my max. Even if, a lot was happening, 2 hours was my sweet spot, for sessions. And so being able to like move around and, engage my brain and my body at the same time, data collection, that's you write it. I mean, or you can take it electronically, but like it's doing multiple things at the same time. You're directing the kid, I don't know, setting up a contingency, whatever it is, helping them do their school stuff, whatever it is. And, it just doing multiple things at once, like all of that really served me well and helped me do everything better. If I'm just doing one thing, I'm not doing that one thing well. That is something I know for myself. So career paths that, computer coding, data, cybersecurity, IT, I think those are, the ASD peeps that, slip under the radar all the time. Anyway, animal science, pet grooming, animal care, filmmaking, computer generated special effects, photography, archivist. There you go. You're on the list. Archivist, librarian, historian, science and tech research. Oh, I love research. Military for structure.
I was going to say not technically a historian, but I do operate a history podcast.
You do. Shameless plug, Band Media Podcast. TM. That's to another podcast. Manufacturing. That was weird to me. Accounting. Okay, makes sense. Auto technician or something where you're taking things apart, I'm assuming.
I was going to say, I wonder if manufacturing is more in an engineering role.
Or maybe just the repetition. I don't know what part. When I think of manufacturing, I think of season 1 of the Roseanne show that you haven't seen, which is probably controversial right now, but like back then it wasn't. And they all worked at a plastics manufacturing company. Sales, which sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
But maybe
that one does sound weird to me, especially since you kind of see
social shit.
Yeah. Social shit's a good way to put it.
But okay, I could see someone who has ADHD, not like me, who I'm also an introvert and possibly most likely on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are an extra, like my dad probably would have done well in sales to a certain degree because he's a very people person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess kind of he's not really. He's in planned giving, so he works for the Red Cross, and people want to donate money and estates and things, you know, in their wills. He talks to them, which it's kind of like sales. It's structured like that. It's just not high pressured like that either. But I mean, yeah, I could see a person who is an extroverted ADHD person, you know, being, you know, really into talking to people and, you know, really just have a way with people. I could see it. I guess.
I get that. Yeah.
Small business owner and working for yourself, I think, is the thing. It's really hard to take direction.
That is one thing I don't think was listed on there. But is certainly an asset to ADHD. I'm literally ignorant of if this applies to autism too. But one of a few of the traits of ADHD is impulsivity, and taking risk-taking behavior, which in a lot of contexts are maybe rightfully treated as not great things that you should learn how to control. And obviously those can be a problem with drugs or sex, both of which, by the way, are great on their own if you're into them. But people with ADHD, I know the most about. I maybe autism too. It can be problematic because of the risky, the willingness to take risks and the impulsivity. But those also line up really well with being an entrepreneur.
And stock market.
And stock market, yeah. I mean, line up really well if you make the right call. But
well, I mean, you got to make a lot of wrong calls. You know, you got to take a lot of risks and fail a lot. You know, I mean, to make anything happen, and the fear of failure will prevent you from taking any risks.
Yeah.
But once you become free of that, if that's something that is a goal of yours, which it was for me last year, it became very freeing. Just breaking out of the game, like whoever I think is in charge of the game, it's actually me, because I'm in control of my own circumstances. I just, had to realize that over time. Oh, we're finished. So hospitality, if you like people.
Yeah.
Chef, culinary, teacher, first responder, artist, writer, engineer, athlete. Athlete, okay, maybe if it's your special interest.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I guess
all of these
argument can be for literally
all
anything.
of these things you can. I mean, teachers rarely sit down. I mean, I guess my math teacher in 10th grade did sit down all of the time, but like for the most part, most teachers are like up, moving around, doing stuff. Answering questions. If you're a elementary school teacher or you just have your classroom with the same kids all day. Probably not sitting most of the time. They're just like being able to walk and talk and things like that, and be, these are all very hands-on types of things too.
Well, I'd say also for teaching, our propensity to keep up on at least special interests and things like that, stay informed of things that are going on, and some of that kind of creativity of thinking outside of the box, could be. Is the type of thing that could make you a memorable teacher, I took lots of math and science classes, but nobody ever did those cool experiments that I see going around the interwebs of how physics works. And
I didn't take physics, but I will
Yeah.
say my biology teacher in 10th grade also, she was really great because she taught us like we were 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, I think, the only way I absorbed anything. Because at that time, like, I think I actually do have a science brain. I just don't care about it. Like, in the sense of, like, chemistry or math shit with science. Like, I like to understand how things work, but not in the chemical sense. Not to that degree. And not that biology is... But I think maybe I liked biology better because it was body science or whatever.
Right.
Organic matter. I don't know, but I just, that has always stuck with me. Like, she was such a good teacher, because she taught us like we were literally 5, not adults, which we were not either.
Well, it's on too, like, just going back to the teacher thing. And I swear this isn't all just like, I don't have some vendetta against teachers.
Yes, you do.
Maybe. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I might have a vendetta against teachers.
Just kidding.
But like, I remember routinely, my worst grades in high school were in science. I fucking love science. And I found that love in my early to mid 20s. People like Carl Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson, science communicators.
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, but even better than Bill Nye, Paul Zaloom, a.k.a. Beekman of Beekman's World. And I will die on that fucking hill that Beekman was better than
You don't
Bill
believe
Nye.
in dying on the hill?
What?
That's like a religious thing.
Everybody dies on hills. Or everybody can die on a hill. Are
Jesus
atheists
died
not
on a cross
allowed?
on a hill. I think it's a religious reference.
Oh, is it?
I don't know. Not to ruin it. You can still use it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be anything to use it.
Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to interrupt.
Well, luckily, I don't have ADHD, so interrupting is not at all throwing me off from the point. Oh, yeah. Beekman's World, better than...
Dying on Beekman's Hill.
Yeah. The point of all that is it astounded me when I fell in love with science that none of my teachers had ever opened up that door for me.
They probably didn't love science either. They're probably good at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass now. My brain is tired. And I think we've covered the workplace enough.
I think so.
To say, well, if you liked what you heard, or at least didn't hate it, can you please like, subscribe, possibly, pretty please, give us a 5-star review. If you want to find us on TikTok and Instagram, it's at @InnerMoxiePod. If you want to email us, share your thoughts, myinnermoxiepod@gmail.com. If you want to find me and follow me on the internet, I am on Instagram @Zanism, Religion and Disease. Yes.
Indeed. I'll add tell a friend if you like it.
Oh, yeah.
If you'd like to find me, I'm on all the socials, but I'm most active on TikTok @BandRonnie. Also, check out my other podcasts, the Band Media Podcast.
We already plugged that.
I'll plug it again.
Okay. And with that, stay fresh, cheese bags. Goodbye.
Later.